Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to the very first episode of the Left and Right podcast. The podcast where we'll be discussing the weekly political headlines from both the left and the right. A lot of people these days show a lot of disinterest towards politics, and rightfully so. There's a lot of drama, a lot of shouting, and a lot of confusion. However, this shouldn't be the case, especially in a country where we can express those opinions freely without facing the consequences, as long as it's done in a peaceful manner. This podcast aims to solve those problems by simplifying the issues, giving you guys the information that you need to form and express your own opinions. I'm your host, Adrian Pisano, recent University of Tulsa graduate with a major in political science. I've been wanting to start one of these podcasts for a year or so now, so we can talk about these issues and have good conversations. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this very first episode. I'm going to give you guys the format of this podcast. We'll start off with 3 or 4 topics, talking about them, spending about 3 or 4 minutes on each, and then we'll move on to a bigger one where we'll spend 7 or 10 minutes talking about it. This week we'll be talking about RFK and the CDC, the Space Command Center relocation from Colorado Springs, Colorado to Huntsville, Alabama, the rolling back of some environment policies and land management deals that President Biden imposed during his last few days in office, and then we'll move on to the GOA and its attempt to remove some parts of the National Firearms Act of 1984. This past week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made some headlines when he testified in front of the Senate. According to various sources, he was grilled for a lot of his decisions in the CDC, specifically those concerning the COVID-19 vaccine and the firing of Susan Monarez. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made some headlines this week when he testified in front of the Senate. According to various sources, he was grilled over his decisions in the CDC, specifically those concerning the COVID-19 vaccine, and the firing of Susan Monarez. RFK suggested that this vaccine should be for 2 target groups, older people and higher risk people. Yet, this immediately faced opposition from both Democrats and Republicans. Republican Bill Cassidy, who played an essential role in confirming RFK earlier this year, said that they were effectively denying vaccines. Senator Elizabeth Warren shared the same sentiment, saying that some people wouldn't be able to get their vaccine at their local Walgreens, making it harder for people. Yet RFK responded by saying that he was not taking them away, saying that he was allowing the states to choose what to do so. If we know anything about states, we know what states will and won't allow it. I know Oklahoma will allow vaccines. I'm just kidding. Oklahoma won't. Texas won't. Florida will. Florida won't. Colorado will. New York will. California will. It's the same issue when we allow the state. RFK was also grilled about the firing of Susan Monarez, who, according to her, was fired for not pre-approving the recommendations for a vaccine advisory panel, who she believed were filled with anti-vaxxers. Yet RFK said she was lying, being specifically asked by a senator if she was. He believes that the CDC needs a revamp, and Susan Monarez was one that had to be let go. Despite all this noise, the White House still has full confidence in RFK. Quoting his dad, he said, "Progress is a nice word, but change is its motivator," saying he needs new blood in the CDC. Shortly after, a lot of health officials called for his resignation, which I don't think anyone thinks is going to resign, so we'll see what happens with the CDC over the next following weeks. Earlier this week, President Trump made an announcement at the White House. A lot of us believed that it would be about his health, as there were a lot of rumors circling around and even some conspiracy theories that he was actually dead. Yet President Trump is alive and well. Instead, he announced that the Space Command Center would be relocated from Colorado Springs, Colorado to Huntsville, Alabama, citing that one of the biggest factors for this move was the fact that Colorado had a mail-in voting system. In my eyes, this sounds absurd, moving a whole command center almost cross-country due to the fact that Colorado has mail-in voting. Calling it calling Colorado for having crooked elections. According to President Trump, this move will bring in 30,000 new jobs to Alabama and billions in investments. That's probably true. He said it will help the fight in the high frontier, which is really important right now. Whoever controls the high frontier really has control and power in the world. The permanence of these headquarters has been an impetus for accusations of political manipulation. We've seen that twice already. The reason that President Biden did not have it in Alabama, according to different reports, is due to its abortion policies. That's the reason he moved it to Colorado Springs. In actuality, Huntsville, Alabama did rank at the top due to its mission synergy, infrastructure, cost, community support, and quality of life. So everyone was surprised when President Biden announced the move to Colorado Springs. And we're seeing more of that political manipulation with this recent move back to where it was going to be originally at in Huntsville, Alabama. I wouldn't be surprised if in 4 years we have a Democratic president and he or she makes a move to move it back to Colorado Springs. I would not be surprised. All I know is that both Republicans and Democrats in Colorado have called this a terrible move that will damage not only the center and the space defense, but also will waste billions of taxpayers' dollars. And that's true. I mean, it's not cheap moving the whole command center that was already built here in Colorado Springs and moving it all the way to Alabama and having to create a new center. That's what I know for sure is us taxpayers will be funding a new center. All because of mail-in voting, or at least it being a big factor. Concerning the environment, recently Republicans in Congress are moving to remove some of the development limits in western states, including Alaska, Montana, and North Dakota. A lot of these land management deals were made by President Biden in his last few days in office in an attempt to reduce climate warming emissions. Yet Trump and Republicans want to create more jobs and revenue. Bruce Westerman, a politician from Arkansas, said that they continue to work to unleash natural resources, support local economies, and strengthen energy and national security. A lot of these moves came after Trump announced a national energy emergency earlier this year. In Alaska, Republican Nick Begich said that repealing the land management deal plan would help access critical minerals and support a liquefied natural gas project that they've been working on. However, this has faced a lot of opposition, to no one's surprise. 40 federally recognized tribes in Alaska argue that there will be risk to the harvest, including salmon and the caribou. This isn't the first time that there's been outcry. Earlier this year, there was a lot of outcry after President Trump expressed plans to expand oil and gas drilling in a reserve on the Arctic Ocean. An activist there said that damages would be terrible to the environment. They've already seen permafrost melting, polar bears having trouble with their hibernation, and possible damages to health of those that are nearby the gas flaring. This is one of those issues that's really important to talk about. For one reason, we have a lot of climate activists advocating for climate change prevention, which is really hard to do now that there's a lot of damage to our earth. And then we have some other people like President Trump and the Republicans who are focusing more on jobs and revenue. I believe both issues need the attention. We have one Earth, and that's the only one we have. Elon Musk hasn't gone up to Mars yet, and I don't think he will anytime soon. Yeah, we do need jobs and we need money in this country. So It's one of those ones that I'm tore apart, and I'm not the only one that's tore apart on this. And we've reached the topic of the hour. Recently, the gun owners of America have been moving to remove parts of the NFA, also known as the National Firearms Act of 1934. I believe I said 1934 in the beginning of the video, but it's 1934 after some fact checking. The NFA is an act that regulates certain firearms by imposing taxes. It requires federal registration, and it also establishes a licensing system between the manufacturer and the transfer. It regulates machine guns, short-barreled rifles and shotguns, silencers, and destructive devices. This act was passed when there was a lot of gangster crime, and they were trying to discourage people from using dangerous firearms. The GOA was funded in 1976 by Senator H.L. Richardson, and on their website it says they represent over 2 million gun owners who want their precious gun rights back. They pride themselves as being known as the No Compromise Gun Lobby. A spokesperson there, Luis Valdez, recently said it's a fantastic change to remove some of these parts of the NFA. This year, a version did pass the House, which removed tax on suppressors. Yet in the Senate, it was found to be in violation of the Byrd Rule. The final version, which was passed in the big, beautiful bill, left the NFA requirements intact. These requirements include registration with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. It requires the person to pay $200 for a tax stamp, and it also requires them to pass an FBI background check. It did succeed in dropping tax on suppressors to zero and short-barreled rifles and shotguns. Yet, the GOA wasn't happy with this, and they filed a lawsuit where they want to overturn the restrictions on both suppressors and short-barreled long guns. 15 Republican states have already joined the lawsuit as plaintiffs. A local attorney, Billy Clark, said that most courts have addressed that most NFA items are not even arms. They're not used for self-defense. A suppressor isn't needed for self-defense, much less a machine gun. Yet, Luis Valdez doesn't share the same view as me. He says that a firearm is a firearm regardless of what it is, and they're all protected by the Second Amendment, the Republicans' favorite amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yet, what happens when these firearms are being used for shootings? I bring this up because a week and a half ago, we had another one in Minneapolis, where a shooter entered a Catholic school and injuring 21 people and killing 2 children. That's right, 2 children. Now, what did the shooter use? According to reports from law enforcement, he used a rifle and a shotgun. I didn't see that as self-defense. The mayor didn't either. He said that this was about not just saying this about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. They were literally in the pews at school where they were supposed to be learning. And we had the shooter come by and do this tragic shooting. Whenever one of these shootings happen, we immediately go to thoughts and prayers, which is good. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of the shooting. Yeah, it's become such a constant, such a consistent thing to go to, thoughts and prayers. And then we mourn for a week or so. Politicians tweet about it. In a week or so, they forget. And we're back to back to normal. And in another month or so, we have another shooting. Thoughts and prayers go out again. Tweets go out. And the cycle continues. I'm a big person when it comes to rights, and I don't think any of our rights should be violated. Yeah, I think it's time to look at these gun rights and work with both parties to come up with a solution that comes, and we come up to a solution where these shootings aren't as frequent and we don't have as many victims. And that's how we're going to end this episode. If you have any suggestions for any topics that you want me to talk about, please leave them in the comments or send me a message. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this first episode of the Left and Right podcast. As always, stay political savvy, and I'll see you on the next one.